Hello, hello. Let's just see. I think this is working. I'm just gonna proceed like this is working, and we're gonna hope this all goes through. This is my first time actually using this software to make the reaction video. So, without further ado, let us begin.
Hello, welcome to another episode of After School. My name is Mark and I'm the animator behind this channel. I just want to say a huge thank you because After School just hit 3 million subscribers. This is a number I never thought would have been possible when I first started this channel. So hopefully I can encourage you like you've encouraged me. The video we're going to watch today is a clip from my podcast with Bret Weinstein. I thought this clip was so good that I figured I'd animate it and put it here. So without further ado, let's dive in.
It's going to seem like a strange analogy, but I think we've already seen a near-apocalyptic catastrophe that has unfolded as a result of the much more mundane process of people being sold porn by an industry that doesn't care about them. That fact has messed up all of the incentives around partnering romantically. And people, if you're
I really like that he mentions that the industry doesn't care about them. It really doesn't, not even a little bit. And Peterson goes so far as to say it's a criminal enterprise, so a third of the internet is run by criminals. They might bring that up in this video.
young enough not to remember how the world was, you may think that that sounds preposterous, that somebody is defending the idea that romance as it was in movies was ever real. And that's not it. There was just simply a system in which people were compelled by something internal to themselves to partner, whether they rationally thought that was a good idea or not. And it resulted.
That's very true. Most of what determines our actions is subconscious. So we really don't understand the effects of pornography. Ultimately, we see massively declining fertility rates. People aren't having kids, and maybe that's because they're family planning and they're going to have kids later. But maybe it's also just because pornography and the pornographization of society, but really just the fact that pornography and pornographic searches got like 35% of the internet search volume, maybe that is contributing to decreasing fertility rates. I mean, definitely. How could it not be?
In a very important, powerful human process functioning correctly. And the combination of technological birth control and pornography has now wrecked.
That's the other thing too, birth control. Birth control, everyone taking birth control. And now women are getting off birth control and they're breaking up with their boyfriends of 6 years because they are no longer attracted to them. Turns out they were only attracted to them on birth control. And I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, obviously. That'd be crazy to say that, but it's definitely the case that certain things we think are harmless or have no effect definitely have an effect. So technological birth control, but then also real hormonal birth control that alters how your body responds to another potential mate's pheromones.
All of the incentive structures in that system and replaced it with nothing meaningful, and it is resulting in people paradoxically not being sexually satisfied as a result of their liberation.
Yeah, that's really accurate. And I also, just from my own experience fornicating, I found that very, very unsatisfying. Like, I would have multiple women that I was sleeping with, but I wouldn't go and sleep with any of them. I would go out and try to find new women because I'm just like, I need, it's like this like crazy desire for just more for no reason because it's not inherently meaningful. And you're kind of like avoiding that by doing it, which is weird. But it's addiction. See what I mean? Like, yay. But also figuring it out. So, yay, figure it out.
Not seeing the wisdom in having a family, not understanding the nature of the creature that they have become through a 3.5.
Yeah, that's another thing too. People like think that people can be anything. It's like, oh my God, in the future we're all just gonna be reproduced in pods, and it's like people are very specific things. Like you can't just raise monkeys in any environment and expect them to be fine. You can't raise people anyway. People have a fixed nature, altering or messing. We should be very aware of that nature and how we could be messing with it.
Billion-year process of evolution.
Yeah, it seems like in our modern world, there are two archetypes that are emerging. That of the incel, the involuntary celibate, who just stays online all day, and the OnlyFans model, who is kind of willfully objectifying themselves and selling their bodies. It seems like these two archetypes have emerged simultaneously, and I'd love to get your take from like an evolutionary point of view, like what is happening here? Why have these two things emerged simultaneously, and is there a way to get the traditional?
Well, obviously, let's just go back slightly. This is obviously what's happening. Why isn't he and her, why aren't they going together? Well, there's a separation in the middle. There's a paywall that's been created or something. There's something in the middle, basically. And one thing that's in the middle is a paywall with OnlyFans. So to some way we can just start looking at like how are men and women being separated from coming together naturally?
Why have these two
Question.
things emerged simultaneously, and is there a way to get the traditional form of romance back?
If there is to be hope for Gen Z, it is going to have to figure out how to step off this stupid treadmill and do something different. And I'm stunned.
My wife and I did it. It's very, very hard to do, but we did it. And other people we have met have done that as well. It's hard to do it because the culture is very against it, and like it's just more
By the fact that there doesn't appear to be a movement of Gen Z folks opting out of the sophistications or pseudo-sophistications of their era. I'm hoping
don't follow me, follow Jesus.
it will merge. I'm expecting it any day, but I have yet to see it. I like your parallel between the incel on the one hand and the OnlyFans model on the other. It's like an involuntarily celibate male and an involuntarily hypersexual female. And people will say, well, what do you mean involuntary? They're deciding to have an OnlyFans account. Well, no. What they are doing is they are being driven to OnlyFans or its equivalent by the lack of good options, sexually speaking.
This is why I said in an earlier video, I think the role of society is to make men acceptable and desirable to women for marriage by 20, because we don't need, like, you don't need society to make it so that one man gets all the woman. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Genghis Khan does. Like, that's the default. That's the, it's not Rousseau. It's, whatever. I don't know. I try to remember. It's the other guy who wasn't Rousseau. The guy who, Hobbes, Leviathan, the Hobbesian nightmare, which is just the strongest primate dominating all the other primates and taking all the mate choice. So ultimately, yeah, we don't need society for like some dude to come kill all the men and take all the women and enslave everyone. Like, we don't need society for that. We need society to encourage men to be desirable mate choices for women so they can provide stable, so they can take care of women. I mean, like, women desire being taken, whatever. I don't know, I'm not going to argue with this and get into more of what I think than the video necessitates right now.
Viable option is to monetize your sexuality if you're beautiful enough to do it, and hope to reach a large audience, because effectively it would be hard to find a man worth partnering with. That the society is so confused that most.
Also, though, let's say like the number of people who are alive who would have otherwise died 100 years ago has also increased. So there is
Most men who, in theory, could be mates don't have the skill set nor the opportunities.
Yeah, this is such a great image. Just people getting weaker and weaker. I mean, not me though. I'm getting stronger and stronger. Come over, join my tribe. We all look like the more jacked versions of the people. Just do what they did, you know?
To
Warrior.
bring to the table that which would ordinarily cause them to find a partner. And so finding many fractional partners is what these OnlyFans models are doing. Now, of course, for almost all of them, it is not economically viable. And the result is that the market causes the exploitation of people who are not going to get a good deal It's only a tiny number of Taylor Swifts who find themselves extremely wealthy as a result of I'm not sure what exactly.
Yeah, the market encourages the exploitation of people who aren't going to get a good deal. So that's basically the majority of people. I mean, hypergamy doesn't really work. You can just go check out Home Math for that.
I hope people don't think I'm analogizing her to an OnlyFans model, although it's not an entirely distinct phenomenon.
Got a really good
I see her.
point. I mean, really, like, just going out, just very provocative. It's like a higher energy level version of OnlyFans. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how different is Kim Kardashian from Taylor Swift? I mean, Taylor Swift, I like some of Taylor Swift's songs. Like, I like a lot of, decent number of her songs. She's got some great music. I don't think that, like, I'm not down on Taylor Swift,
Her on
but
stage wearing absurdly provocative costumes, and I think to myself, so is she really in charge, or has the system kind of enslaved her? And it's not really one or the other. She's obviously beyond wealthy, but nonetheless, it doesn't look to me like the choices that somebody who really had achieved a level of power over their own life would be making.
I recently got engaged, and my fiance, she has a pretty big YouTube platform as well. And she's never really showed much skin. She's never, done any of those. And I asked her why she's never done that. And she said that once you do that, nobody will ever take you seriously. All you have to do is do it once, and nobody will ever take you seriously after that. And I thought that that was such a good point. And I've heard street interviews where people go around and say, would you date a girl that had an OnlyFans? And for most men, it seems like that's a deal breaker. And for women, it's also a deal breaker. Would you date a guy that followed girls on OnlyFans?
it's gonna be tough though. Like, I'm really happy. Like, I snagged my wife before she ever had an OnlyFans before, because like this, I don't know. I think you gotta judge people by their hearts, but also like know people though. Like, don't you gotta know people. You gotta like cultivate your inner psychopath. There's psychopaths out there, and you'd be like, oh no, I'm gonna judge their heart, and it's like they're just manipulating you. At least that's happened to me. So don't let it
They
happen
say,
to
oh
you.
no. So it seems like this way of life is being incentivized, yet it's completely at odds with traditional romance and what could actually connect us.
Not only that, but if we go back to porn for a second, the porn industry is composed of a bunch of different companies that are competing with each other, and they're all selling the same thing. So, in order to capture people's attention, they are forced.
Yeah, this is crazy. Any of you guys, if you are any of you are addicted to porn, easy peasy way to quit pornography. It is available for free on YouTube. The audiobook, amazing. I used it. Friends used it. It's a terrible addiction, but you can quit it with an audiobook. So go do that.
To compete in the extremeness of what they are presenting, which forces them directly into taboos. So they are breaking every taboo for very mundane economic reasons. And the problem with that is that
Tattoos are there for a
the
reason.
human creature is built to discover what sex is. And they discover it in part through the observation of other people, most of which is hidden, but there's a certain amount that one can observe. And then they discover it through an intensely bonding exploration with somebody else, a very private exploration that unites you in a secret kind of knowledge. By replacing that natural process of discovery with porn saturated with taboos, we are actually distorting the sexual development of the people who find this stuff early in life, which is almost
Found
every
porn
man.
at 11 when I wasn't even looking for it. I was looking for completely unrelated things. And it just came up 'cause it's so dang common. It's really crazy. Really, really crazy.
Male.
Like, really, like everyone is hooked on porn, basically. Like, almost everyone watches porn. It's like 99% of men and a lot of women. It's crazy. Like, this is really bad negative psychological effects. We know it does. We've done brain scans, so you can see it's really bad for your brain. It's bad for your psychology. We know all about that. And almost everyone's on it. I mean, because how could you not be? It's just available right here. You know what I mean? Like instantaneously. You just whenever, you just go get all the unlimited porn, and it's takes takes an understanding of how to beat the addiction to get out of the addiction. People don't have that because that's not what's marketed. It's the porn that's marketed.
And I'm now led to believe. And what is very hard to say to these folks is by participating in that, by consuming that content, you are destroying your own sexual mind and you are harming your future partner. And by doing that, you're changing your whole life. You don't think you're making a decision that's changing your life. You
Yeah,
think
you're right.
you'll do it, and if it's not good, you'll stop. And maybe you will. But the question is, you can't go back to whatever your mind would have done. You can't build the relationship you would have built if you have
These are fake
seen
trigger
so many of these images and your mind has, because it has no resistance to this, because it has seen it with its own photoreceptors, you have taken it in as if that's a real portrayal of human sex. And it isn't. That's a market force. That's not.
Listen to that. That's not a real portrayal of human sex. It's a market force. For all these people out there who are like, capitalism's bad, and they're also pro pornography, you're kind of having sex with capitalism. You're becoming one flesh with capitalism. Not actually, really. I mean, it's just not. It's pornography. It's a completely different thing, honestly. But it's weird to think about. It's a market force that's going to alter your brain. You should really think about this as like the future goes on. Like, what are people doing to alter our brains and alter our behavior?
Not a that's not what passion does. So really for many years I suffered the accusation of being a prude for saying things like this. And I'm not a prude. I'm not even against sexually explicit content.
Have tons of hot sex with your wife.
Erotica is fine. That's an ancient form. I'm
There you go.
against what the
That's awesome.
market is doing to sex, which I think is extremely dangerous.
And it seems like the incentives plus the emerging AI could just add gas to that fire. Because right now we have real women who are taking pictures and putting filters on and photoshopping and whatever they can do, but they're actually doing that themselves.
All AI is going to do is AI is going to allow for more individualized targeting, and they already do that with a lot of chatbots, a lot of chats. A lot of times you're messaging people, you think that that's either a real person. I mean, it's or it's a call center in India or something. It's someone else, but I think AI is going to potentially allow, like, that's going to really allow them to target you. And I don't know. I mean, once you realize like what porn is, it's ultimately not gonna like have an effect. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I just think that like I don't really know actually. I mean, when you're talking to something, you're interacting. That would could be disturbing. I'm very glad I got free from porn before I got before that stuff all comes out and came out.
What if we take away the human woman with the soul and just replace it with an AI that is designed to get you to pay attention to it as long as possible? And it could exploit our brains just like fast
I mean, that's kind of like children though. They're kind of like AIs. They're designed. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They play with themselves a lot. I'm goofing.
food has exploited
This is a disturbing image of reality that they're portraying right here.
us. There's no
Not the kind
limit
of
to that.
people.
It can and it will. And even worse than that, we are already at the point where AI can attach somebody's face to pornography who didn't consent to it. And so
I feel like
imagine that your sexual
in a real sense, like not even in like a poetic sense, but real beauty is like the radiant human being expressed through their body, and that requires health to a large degree because like it's hard for radiance to be expressed through unhealthiness. But I don't know, like this idea of like, ooh, we're gonna use AI to make the perfect face that's gonna make everyone so obsessed. Like that's simply a person who does not understand how seduction, attraction, and any of that stuff works. Like, go read The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. It's not a great manual, but it's a great like helps you understand how human behavior works. People aren't AIs that look at the most right like proportionate, mathematically symmetric face and just go like there's a lot more, I'd say, psychology, marketing, mate choice copying, and deeper behavioral and psychological reasons for why people go for certain people beyond what they literally look like past a certain point of healthiness.
Mind is being instructed by this profit-driven industry, and it gets the ability to attach the face of your crush to these violent or otherwise troubling images. And then how exactly are you supposed to navigate a relationship with that person? Should they...
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because it's going to make trust is going to be a super high value asset in the future because they could just create videos of you cheating on your wife. So then how does she trust you? Like how do you trust that they don't create videos? You know what I mean? Like if her cheating on you, how do you know? Like how well do you actually know your wife? Makes it a priority, you know? Don't get cocky.
find you attractive? It's going to destroy what little of value remains in that landscape, and it just doesn't leave a path forward in which there is an honorable relationship between men and women.
And from like an evolutionary standpoint, does this point towards extinction, or does this point to maybe like people figure out a new way to breed digitally?
You know, it takes an awful lot to create extinction. I see that hazard in various things that we're doing. I don't see it.
I see extinction as a hazard in despotism. Like when we become despotic and unmotivated, we'll stop maintaining the structures and attending to the structures that maintain the world around us. And then those will start to crumble, and then we'll just keep going downward and blaming each other, and it just fall of Rome or something, the barbarians rush in from the outside. I see it as a mentality thing, first and foremost, and less of anything else. But pornography definitely hurts. Definitely gonna push civilization. I mean, literally, it's just all this wasted energy, all this wasted sexual energy. Read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He talks about how you should retain your sexual energy to make money because you need that energy. And in a very real sense, like attention is where goes, where energy goes, where attention flows, or energy goes, where attention flows, energy flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes, I think. But really it does though in like every sense. So if you're putting all your attention towards pornography, then you're not putting attention and energy towards other things, and those things need attention and energy, and then they die, and then they no longer sustain you, and then you die, and then you no longer sustain other people, and then the dominoes fall and the house of cards comes tumbling down.
In the absolute destruction of normal relation between the sexes, because it only takes a small number of people to figure it out.
Like Wally would never be a reality because someone would come in and enslave all of them before then.
Keep the species going, and in fact, you can imagine all kinds of dystopias in which
unless they were all prisoners for political reasons, which is a
eggs and sperm are joined in some way and technologically brought to maturity, or surrogacy becomes economically driven by people.
It is freezing in the house I'm in, so I'm just constantly doing this. It's because it's freezing and it takes so long to heat up.
People who want to produce children for reasons of vanity or whatever, so there are lots of ways in which humanity can go forward. But from the point of view of a civilization that makes sense, the importance of sexual and romantic drive cannot be overstated. For almost all of our history as humans, the desire to become worthy of a sexual relationship has motivated men.
Yes. And if men can no longer do that, then they will cease to build society. Which is why it's the goal of society to make men worthy of a sexual relationship at 20. So they can get to putting that energy somewhere good rather than God knows anywhere
To
else.
accomplish great things. It is in large measure the fuel that created civilization.
I can tell you nothing is motivating like having a wife and kids. You're just very motivated all the time. I mean, at least I am, unless you're someone who's not motivated by that.
By eliminating that incentive structure, by making sex common, disgusting, dangerous, we are
Okay, the disgusting and dangerous part sounds like he's advertising, but
removing the thing that caused us to find.
well, actually, not dangerous. I mean, not real dangerous. Don't die of autoerotic asphyxiation or something. That's not good.
This way of being, and
not real disgusting either. You know, like don't like, like dirty. Not that's really dirty. Oh my God, you're covered in filth.
And I'm afraid, although it's hard to predict the particulars of the way that goes wrong, the general trajectory is clear. And again, the right thing to do is for young people to say, actually, I can see the problem, and I'm going to opt out. And I'm going to interact with those who have also opted out. I don't know why that movement has not arisen yet, but
yes,
when it does, it will not be a moment too soon.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that.
Okay, well,